Hello again, guys. It is I, Freeze700. We are back with some homebrewed Space Marine chapters. So this one was submitted by Crystal. Crystal, if you guys do not remember her, she was in one of the gold live streams that I have set up. It was one of the Grimgore ones, so take your pick. But her and I talked a lot about fan fiction because she actually wrote a little article of fan fiction that got 4,000 upvotes. It was crazy. So this is her submission called the Lupa Argenta. Don't know if I pronounced it right, but hey, I think I'm pretty close. So let's go ahead and read through it. So the Lupa Argenta are a small chapter. No one knows who they are successors of, although many in the Imperium speculate they're either Space Wolves or Blood Angels. Misspelling. The reason for this is their behavior and their fang-like teeth. They are larger than Blood Angels, but smaller than Space Wolves. Okay, so they're pretty big. Each member of the Argenta are specialized in heavy weapons, explosives, and pyrotechnics. They enjoy painting their own war gear and are genuinely friendly depending on which Marine you're talking to. They don't like the Primaris, but have come to tolerate. That's a good detail right there, because then that kind of gets you into the mind of the chapter's culture, that they're a little bit more traditionalist, more conservative. At first introduction of the Primaris, they were shunned by the Firstborn Marines, that's the normal Marines, and occasionally fights broke out. Eventually, the young Primaris Marines proved themselves a worthy part of the chapter after a large battle with the Tyranids, causing mass casualties for the already small chapter. They have a strange command structure. Each squad has its own color for the helmet lenses, making it easier to identify them, although bronze, silver, and gold signify importance. I don't know what that is. I like colors. Okay. I like colors too. They are hardy and love their ale, much like the Space Wolves, although their drinks are not as potent. They have butted headed with the Marines Malevolent at times. So that's a very interesting piece of lore here. Because the Space Wolves drink Mjod. And Mjod is super potent. A human drinking that would die. Their liver would immediately shut down. But if it's slightly weaker, then that means that they have to drink a lot more to get the effect. Because drinking regular alcohol doesn't hit a Space Marine the same. They could drink kegs of beer and they would not feel drunk. It takes a lot of beer to actually get a Marine drunk. That's why Mjod is highly liked by the Space Wolves, because it's toxic enough to actually get them drunk. So that's a good little bit of lore here, I guess, for, again, culture. The chapter master Argus Vesuvo was nearly killed in action due to a rather large Tyranid, but due to the Argenta's love for heavy weaponry, a squad known as the Vorpex Fangs completely compromised the Primaris Marines, saved the chapter master, proving their worth. Okay, so that's a short story. That's a little short story here that explains how the Primaris Marines basically got tolerated. They as a chapter respect the Guard, although there are some who despise the weak humans, wondering as to why they must preserve such weak empire. Mainly the humans, although they are split in opinion, some rise up to the fact that people rely on them and the Astartes in general to protect them from the many dangers of the galaxy and the terrors of the warp. This is a really good piece of lore here, because many chapters are like this, where there's bound to be a few Marines who just don't like humans at all. They just view them as weak, pathetic, not worth their time. The Marines Malevolent kind of exemplify that, but a normal Space Marine chapter, it would actually be a bit of a split in culture difference, except for Salamanders and Marines Malevolent. The Blood Ravens in Dawn of War exemplify that, where on one hand, they don't want civilians to die unnecessarily, but on the other hand, some of their own Marines are why do we even bother? These guys aren't going to help us. These guys suck. Let us carry the fucking battle. So I like this a lot. This is a really good piece of lore here. This person knows a little bit about Warhammer, which is so refreshing to, see. It's like Trooper Geo's homebrew chapter. He actually knows the lore. They don't like psychers. They freak them out. They have no librarians, although they respect them. They'd prefer they stay away, some thinking it's contagious. That's interesting. So it's adding the idea of superstitions, because there are superstitious Space Marines that do exist. The Mortificators are one. The Iron Snakes are another. They're very superstitious. They have their weird tribal beliefs. So I like that. The idea that they think that psychers are contagious. They leap into battle from drop pods, basically like Blood Angels. They live for the adrenaline battle brings them. Many guardsmen and other Astartes have reported hearing members of the Argenta chapter laughing maniacally when in combat, although they are mostly quiet when nothing eventful is happening. They are easily made bored and shout when they speak. Stealth is a word they do not know. I like that. So, yeah, here we get the mix between Blood Angel and Space Wolf lore, like drop pods and fighting for the adrenaline rush. Yeah, it's more Blood Angels, but then you got, they don't know shit about stuff. They don't know about inside voices, so it's like, all right, Space Wolves. Although they prefer to stick to themselves when it comes to battles, Blood Angels, they have a good sense of camaraderie, although some do not. There have been reports of members of the Argenta abandoning their allies for personal glory in battle, not wanting to miss an opportunity to tear into their enemies with their heavy weapons. So I like this. I like this what Crystal's doing right here, is she's building them up so there actually is a good debate as to whether or not they're Blood Angels or Space Wolves. Not only is it like the gene seed could be making them this way where they stick to themselves like a Blood Angels because they're scared they'll butcher their allies, but then at the same time they're very camaraderie just like Space Wolves. So I like this. She's really adding in this level of detail to these like tiny stories. I think she could expand upon this and make these their own personal stories. That would be something I'd be really interested in reading. They will occasionally steal from other chapters if they see something they like, mainly heavy weapons and vehicles and the occasional armor. That's interesting. So that means that they might not be getting supplies from the Mechanicus for some reason. They take the offspring of daring and courageous guardsmen and put the children through many trials to prove their worth. The three main ones consist of survival. The recruits have to survive on their own or in groups for a month on a dangerous planet. Hey, that's nice. You're telling us what their trials are, and then you give us a brief description. Nice. Combat, the recruits have to fight something, either being orcs or Eldar, to prove they are capable of killing, and if they die, they are forgotten. Nice. Pain tolerance. They will be put through immense pain to test their tolerance and willpower. Most likely they'll get the Dorn pain glove. If a recruit fails, they are executed before the others by a chaplain. This is failure. The chaplain will say as he raises his weapon and strikes down the recruit, "It will not be tolerated." This is done to show the recruits that it's death or glory. Failing is not an option during training. Alright, and that's about it. So, the writing here is actually really good because she gives us enough details to see their culture, to see like, okay, they're superstitious. Okay, they're somewhat loud and boisterous like Space Wolves, but at the same time, they're pretty isolated at the same time. They have a bit of a split in their chapter culture where some like people, some don't. Like, this is interesting because this makes you believe that there really is a human culture inside the chapter, which is something I see a lot of people don't do. Like, a lot of people will tell me, oh, well, my chapter's like Ravengard and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, cool, dude, but how are they, like, how is their thought processes? How is their culture? What are some unique things about them? And people don't get it what I'm saying. They're like, oh, well, you know, they use long claws as weapons. It's like, no. What makes them unique? What makes them so interesting? And here we have it. This is what makes this interesting. This is easily going to be 8 out of 10 for me. The reason why it's not 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 is because there's a lot of typos here. And also, there seems to be some kind of like mini stories going on here, but she doesn't expand upon it. But I think if she does another part where she submits me a bunch of miniature stories that explain further detail, like how these incidences come, why is it that they're stealing? Because that adds a little bit of mystery. It's like, ooh, they steal from chapters? Is that because they did something to the Mechanicus? Interesting. But again, these all feel like mini stories that I would love to see expanded upon. So that's why it's going to get an 8 out of 10 for me. Now we can look at the chapter colors that she submitted. This is their chapter emblem. So this is what you would see on their pauldrons. Now the pictures here, she did them with her phone. So she wasn't able to put the logo, like copy paste it on here. But still, though, I like the colors because it's different. It's weird. It's a little unpleasant to look at, but you can see the fine details like blue trim, blue Aquila, red background, red. Purple is the main color. And you got blue lenses, which again, as she said, the lenses signify chapters. Here we got green lenses, a little bit of a green feathers on the blue Aquila. So I like this. And then here's the part that I was messaging her about. I'm like, hey, wait a second. This guy's got a different emblem. And that's how she explained to me that she was doing it on her phone. So I'll let it pass. But again, I like this here. Like, you see the trim's different. So this guy's probably in a different company. And then she even has this little art here to show a Marine without his helmet. Really highly done. I don't know how the fuck she did it, but it looks beautiful. I don't know if she like got this from another website or if she actually drew this, but this looks great. I love it. You got the purple, you got the little red detail. So it's almost like this guy or some bullshit. Here's one of the example helmets with its own colors and stuff. Here's the concept art, I guess you would say. She actually did like a little miniature. It looks so good though. And here she starts to show off some weapons. Again, like, this is really good. This is really, really good. The amount of like detail she went to. She even got some Terminator armor. I love on how Terminator is not as flashy as per se the Marine's armor. And again, that makes sense to me because a Terminator is going to be in a dark environment like a Space Hulk, like a ship. So in that dark environment, being a dark color Terminator would make sense to me. Because again, if you're fighting humans, like traitorous humans on a vessel, they're going to have a very hard time seeing at the end of the corridor before all of a sudden you start activating your wrist-mounted Gatling gun. Then it's too late, you know? And here's a Scout Marine too, which I also find very awesome that she actually put in the effort to do this. Like, you got a little neon belt. So it's a very colorful chapter. But she did say she's writing some short stories on them. So again, I wouldn't mind doing this chapter again. But as far as the lore and the pictures and everything, I give this an easy 8 out of 10. This didn't take much for me to consider. This is a really awesome idea. The idea of these guys just charging with heavy bolters, plasma, shit like that, and they just start blowing shit up, and they use flamethrowers. That's a really awesome idea, especially when they're coming in by drop pod. And they do have a bit of a culture split. They do have what seems to be an actual personality, which is, again, something I've been begging for. So besides that, this has been Freezer700. I'm out. See you guys next time.